Today I want to talk about the number one reason that I feel that people don't accomplish their goals. Let's face it, we all want to, but yet within that first week or two, maybe 3, we often get to that place that we think, this is just too hard, this isn't working, and it's easy to get frustrated. And then, unfortunately, we begin to feel that we must be the problem. Because you see, we can look on the internet and we can see everyone else succeeding, everyone else doing the things that they want to, but yet it's not working for us. Well, today, that's going to change. I'm Coach Maggie, a certified health and lifestyle coach, teaching godly principles to healthy living. So today I want to talk about that number one, I believe, hurdle that keeps us from reaching the finish line. And I'm going to give you 3 examples of ways that we can take this technique and really make it work. So stick with me. People come from 2 different approaches. There are those that say, make your goals achievable, small enough that you're going to succeed. You almost can't not succeed. And then there are people with the other idea, go for audacious goals. And I tend to like that one. But yet, haven't we all had those audacious goals? And then somewhere along the line, they seem to fall apart. So let's take a look at why. First of all, I believe it's important to have those big goals. But what we need to do is we need to have that big goal off in the distance. But then we need to have those smaller goals that lead to it. So for example, last week, my husband and I drove from South Carolina to Chicago. It's roughly 12 hours. And so while we knew Chicago was our destination, in our mind, we break it down. So for example, the first part of the journey is just getting to Asheville, North Carolina. I drive the first leg of the trip because I do not like driving in the mountains. So we get to Asheville, we stop, get something, and then we go through the Smoky Mountains. It's beautiful, but I'm like this most of the way. My husband drives that part. And then the next stop is just before Knoxville, Tennessee. There's a huge Buc-ee's there, so we get cheap gas and a cheap drink and some fresh air. Time to think, regroup, maybe have a quick snack. And then from there, we go on and to the next stop and the next stop. It breaks up that 12-hour trip. So we're not thinking 12 hours. We're thinking 2 hours to Asheville and then another 3 to Knoxville. And then from Knoxville, we get on a different highway. And then from there, we may drive 3 hours. So do you see, we're breaking it down. The finish line is in fact Chicago, but that's not in our head right now. So let's break this down so that you can see how this might work for maybe a health goal that you have. So let's say your health goal is to lose 50 pounds. Maybe 100, maybe 10. But whatever it is, have that as your main goal. But then what are small increments? So let's do 50 because it's easy. Instead of focusing on 50, you say, I'm going to focus on 5 pounds that I want to lose. Maybe give yourself 2 weeks, let's just say. And so you start walking more, you're doing some things, and you lose that first pound. If you only have 5 to lose, you're close to being there. And it's like, yes, I only have 4 more pounds to lose. But if you're so overly focused on the 50 and you lose 1, you're like, this is going to take forever to lose 49 more pounds. So do you see the difference? It's the same goal, but it's broken down and it's making it doable. And so then you do a few more things, you lose another pound, and now you're like, oh my goodness, of the 5, I've lost 2, almost 2.5. So you feel like you're halfway there. Are you halfway there to 50? Not even close. But again, we're just focusing on those small increments. So then you get to 5 and you're like, yes, now it's time for 5 more. You take maybe a slight break, you reward yourself, but not with food. And then you set the plan in motion for the next 5, and then the next 5. You will get there. So let's try another one. Suppose your thing is junk food, and you know you should give it up. You know you shouldn't be eating it, but you just can't seem to help it. So take a look at all the different junk food. Maybe there's pop. Oh, there's chips. Maybe in the morning there's donuts. Maybe there's candy. Work. So rather than say, I'm giving it all up, I'm swearing off all those horrible things, pick just one. Which one, if you had to give up one, would you give up? And maybe you decide, well, maybe I'll give up chips. So you say, okay, no chips. You continue to have the pop. And I know some of you are going, oh my goodness, what is she saying? But you continue with the other things, but you're not doing the chips. And along the way, our minds start working, and you get to that place that you think, you know what? I'm starting to have a little bit more energy, maybe not dragging as much. And so a lot of times what's happened with me and other people is all of a sudden the donuts aren't as appealing. Or maybe you go to bite into one and it just doesn't taste the same. So you toss it. And pretty soon, and it's not fast, it's slow, but you've found yourself that you don't have that desire for chips anymore. And honestly, donuts, they're not as fun as they used to be. And so you're working towards kicking those habits. Not all at once. This could take months, but you're starting to see progress. Let's do one more. You know you should go to bed earlier, but you call yourself a night owl, and I used to be one. So let's say 11 o'clock or 11:30 is your usual bedtime. But yet you've heard so often the studies seem to say 10:30 is better. But everything you've tried, nothing has worked, because you're trying to go to bed a whole hour to an hour and a half earlier, and it's just not happening. So instead of saying 11:30, what about if you said, all right, I'm going to aim for 11:15. And so you prepare. Around 10, you start getting ready. You start making sure things are done. The house is tidied up. The kitchen's clean. Maybe you put your clothes out for the next day. Take a shower. You sit and relax. And you say, all right, 11:15. And it's hard the first day, but then you keep at it and you are determined. You are aiming towards 11:15. And pretty soon, maybe midway, almost a week, you find yourself at 11:15. And it's like, okay, I did that. That wasn't so bad. And you realize some of the things that work, some of the things that don't work. And you see, you start going backwards, but in a good way. So the thing is, too often our goals are big, which they should be. But we need to make sure that we're allowing ourselves space and time to work up to the big goal. So what's a goal that you're working on? What's a goal that maybe you're not working on now because you have tried so many times, and let's face it, you've just given it up? Leave me a comment, because I'd love to read it and respond back with maybe 2 or 3 things to break that up so that you can reach that goal. Because that's what it's about. That abundant living is not that living way down here, but instead God wants to lift us to live the lives that He has purposed for us to live. So what is it that's keeping you feeling defeated? Again, leave me a comment. I'll respond. And let's start working through those things. Stop starting over again and again and again. Let's try a different strategy so that we can reach the finish line. We can get to that goal that we've been striving for. So again, until next time, this is Coach Maggie helping you live a godly, healthy life. Take care, and as always, God bless.